Well, here we are, life update number 3. I don't know what number I'll end up working up to, but I know that there's a lot going on in my life, and many of you have followed me for all of these near 13 years that I've been doing this, and feel like you've become part of my family. That's me, Larissa, Prodigal Pieces, here to share with you in part an answer to the survey questions I asked you guys back in my life update number 1, and asked you questions, different things I had hit on topics, and so I nailed some of those, and then life update number 2, and now moving on to specifically talking about autism and narcissism. When I could say my brain has exploded of everything I've learned as a ex-wife to a neurodivergent man, as a mother to neurodivergent children, as a daughter to a narcissistic parent, and all that that entails, it's beyond what I can share with you in one sitting. So with that, before I go on, I really invite you to sign up for my newsletter. I plug this because I've had social media taken away from me, losing over 100,000 followers. My email newsletter comes to you as my posts go live. No strings attached. That way you know what's going on. I have so many reach out like, I don't know how to find you. I didn't see where to go. So that if you lose me, quote unquote, or they hide me or whatever, you can come straight here. So there you go. You can sign up at the top, the bottom, within this post. There's lots of ways to sign up for the newsletter, and it comes straight to your inbox. Okay, with that, there are just a couple things that first I wanted to tackle your guys' questions. I've printed them out here so that I don't lose track and get off base. First one's, I asked if you had any particular questions about autism. Actually, in the survey, I also asked how many people actually understood or had experience with autism, narcissism, neurodivergency, period, whether it's ADHD, OCD. If you don't know all those, that's some different terms, but different neurodivergencies there. And I would say more than half of you have had experience with one or the other or both, and so or listed your own experience in that. So I feel like I'm not totally starting off blank here, but somebody asked, when in reference to autism, how long does it take to get diagnosed? Honestly, children are easier to diagnose than adults. It's getting better for adults to get diagnosed, but at the moment, it's averaging around a year, so 12 months, but it can be as less as 6 months that I've heard. Now, in my situation, nor JC nor the children have had an official diagnosis. That is a personal preference. Sometimes it is required for school and different things like that. We don't have any of those pressing things, or just their personal, like, I want to know for myself, yes. But based on some online testing and just obviously living with somebody for 30 years or raising my children, I can tell you, yeah, they have symptoms. So just to answer that question, it can take that long. Somebody asked about depression. They just listed depression. It's very common, actually, with anybody, but very common within neurodivergency because of the neurodivergency and not understanding yourself. So yeah, you can be neurodivergent, but not necessarily deal with depression. But when you're facing all these different emotional, social, relationship differences, it can lead you to depression because you're battling yourself essentially. So the key I have found in my research is to figure out your dysregulation and how to regulate yourself, how to manage yourself better so that you understand yourself, you understand other people. So for me, in my experience, like, I'm quote unquote neurotypical. I have taken every test I can possibly take to find out if I'm anything, but actually the fact that I've been raised by a narcissist, I think, kind of puts me on that, not biologically in the sense of I didn't come out wired, but the trauma and different things have caused me to have different experiences in life, right? So I think it's real key to just get regulated and understand yourself, whether you're considered to be neurodivergent or not. But depression is real, and I don't take light of it. I think that there's been experiences within the in-law family that has had different levels of depression, as well as my own family and my family of origin. So yeah, real deal there. What I wanted to hit was one of the questions, kind of, I don't want to say stung. Okay, the question is, do you believe people with autism can love? Do you feel Do they feel emotion? As a mother to autistic children, okay, yeah, there's agape love, there's phileo love, there's different kinds of love, right? So you can have a love between a mother and a child, and then romantic love between a man and a woman. And so generally in that question, do they love? Well, yes, they love. I mean, they love me. I love them. They're my all in all. Would do anything for them. But when it comes to romantic love, yes, it's just that it's different. And do they feel the emotion? Of course they do. The key there is understanding what equates love to them. All right. For instance, they do, I say they meaning neurodivergence, can express love through non-social contact. So let's say they play a favorite song that means something to them that they want you to listen to. They have you read something, or they write a poem or do something, but it's generally that regard. But that regard is it's written. I'm sorry, not spoken. That doesn't mean they can't do the spoken, but it's very common. But there are those that are over exuberant and will express differently. Okay, so it really depends because of that spectrum. But some ways they would show love also is doing chores, doing things for you to help take care of you, by parallel play or what's called body doubling. That a lot of these I didn't understand and didn't know. But let's say you're in the room with them and you're doing the same something on your own in the same room, but you're with them in the room. That to them is very special. That's very hard for me as a neurotypical who says I want involvement with you, I want interaction with you. I don't like being in a room with you without communicating. Okay, so you can imagine what that was like being in a marriage and not understanding that that was a dynamic that was there. They also just can show that they care about you and love you by unmasking. Again, I could go into every little facet of this and explain. So unmasking is where they're being themselves. They don't have to feel like they have to put on a mask. And so they're being authentic with you. They're showing that they love you. Information dumping by sharing something that they're passionate about and just going on and on about it, you would think, but to them it's just, hey, I'm passionate about this. I want you to be passionate about it, and they want to share their joys with you. By even leaving you alone. And what I mean by that, that was the hard one for me. I don't necessarily want to be alone when I'm struggling with something or I'm having a hard time. And sometimes that form of love could be leaving you alone, thinking that you want to be left alone because that's how they would maybe cope with the same situation. So they're trying to, again, body double. What would you want? And that's because it's relative to me, what I understand. So, yeah, again, imagine this in a marriage where me being a neurotypical wants attention, wants interaction, also being raised by a narcissist, so I'm an ACON, right? Adult child of a narcissist, was also huge issues with codependency that I didn't realize were an issue. There's different facets to that. I want to say I just recently watched a two-part series by Jodi Carlton on 6 signs of codependency within a neurodivergent relationship, and also explaining more about how it happens and what goes on there. And she lists different things that are just spot on. So I really recommend that. I will put links to that that you can watch. But yeah, very common for autism to have comorbidities such as OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, or ADHD, and others. And you could be ADHD and the other person be ASD, or you can have ADHD, which is both of them together. Very common things there that can cause issues within a relationship. And then to get to your questions about narcissism, one thing to remember is narcissism is also a spectrum. You can have narcissistic traits, which every human has, right? We have self-focus all the way up to narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. So it's interesting to me that it's very common for somebody who has had a narcissistic parent or is autistic. Okay, let's say I'm a child born into an autistic family with a parent, and my goal as a child is to mirror that parent, right? We're going to take on those parents. As an autistic person, they do a lot of role play, right? And scripts. So they can even be strongly narcissistic in their tendencies and the way they do, but they're not necessarily hardwired to be narcissistic. So it's a crazy dynamic. But do they ever admit they're wrong? Somebody asked. No, they do not admit they're wrong. Obviously, narcissism having a self-esteem base that they were always projecting onto other people, they're not in the wrong, it's you, and they will figure out a way to make you the wrong person. In my experience, it's funny, I was talking to a professional about this when I first discovered that I was raised by a narcissist, so that was insanely huge. Was I said, hey, I think I have a Christian covert narcissist parent. And this person already knew that I was dealing with heavy things within the marriage relationship. And they said, whoa, you are dealt a blow there, because the religious covert narcissist is the worst kind of narcissist there is. I was like, oh, wow, I won the lottery. And I say that in our sarcasm. I've learned to do sarcasm very well within my family. But what that trained me to do was fall in love with potential. And I mentioned in my last video that I, in hindsight now, could see that there were several relationships where these people were head over heels for me, could have married me, they would have said. I believe there was several people that were authentically in love with me in the sense of it was healthy. Okay, not to say JC wasn't in love, but these people scared me off. I'm not good enough for them. They deserve better. That's scaring me. I don't deserve to be treated that way. That's the way I was trained to accept those responses. And I've learned that being an adult child of a narcissist, I've learned that red flag signals are actually my norm. That's what I would look for, because that's what happened to me. And that's what I was essentially trained to expect from somebody who cared about me in a loving relationship. That just knowing that I was this primarily the scapegoat role that I was assigned. I so I have 3 siblings, and one in particular, we have an older brother, a younger sister, and then a younger brother. And the sister and I, mostly, we all were put in rivalry with each other. There were manipulations done perfectly to put us in rivalry with one another. And we all knew something was amiss and could understand that there was something up. I can't share a lot about my experiences just yet because there are flying monkeys. So I described flying monkeys in my last post, where there are people given roles used by the narcissist to do their bidding, right? So think Wizard of Oz, those flying monkeys. They hated that witch. They celebrated when she was dead, but they did her bidding. And so they have their own issues. Flying monkeys have their own issues, but they take that information, relay it back to the narcissist, but also the narcissist themselves uses this information to understand. They will even go to a therapy session or a counselor in order to learn how to better play the chess game. Okay, so in order for me not to have more problems, I can't share some of it. I will in due time to explain, but I don't know if you can see then the correlation there between me being raised by a narcissist and then choosing an autistic person. I spelled that out, that autism doesn't give as many red flags as a narcissist would, so I chose the lesser of a narcissist kind of person, if that makes sense. And when it comes to my children, it's been difficult. And so when I mean difficult is I didn't know they were autistic. So if I had known they were autistic straight off, I think I could have dealt things differently. Again, coming back to that training in me to take care of everything for everybody, and I'm the blame, and I need to manage everybody's emotions. I'm owning all this. I didn't know I was trained to do that. I now understand that, and that's why I've had to make huge life changes, because it's time for self-care. It's time for Larissa to get the attention she needs, and that is not selfish on my part. I waited and waited for others to do their part, so now I need to focus on me, my children, my future. My physical health has been ill-affected for my entire life. I, as mentioned, I've suffered quote-unquote strokes. That was my body shutting down to trauma happening in my life. I'm currently still bilateral vertigo, so right now the screen is going like this while I'm feeling a heavy weight on me because I was triggered back into vertigo that I've had before. If you follow me for long, this one's hard. Subchorionic hematomas, I was plagued with those through pregnancies from my third child on. And at my third child, there were some things that happened. And honestly, to say, there's a group I'm in that is full of women going in women and men, primarily women in difficult marriages, not just neurodiverse marriages. Okay, so this is like a divorce support group. And in my interactions with these people, I have met others that have dealt with subchorionic hematomas. Now, at the moment, doctors can't find what's causing those. I believe without a doubt these hematomas were caused by me having suffered trauma and abuse. Now, when I say abuse, mental, emotional, can hurt you as much as the physical. Okay, you carry stuff. Book called The Body Keeps the Score. Great way to read up on what happens to your body when you are just shutting down, and your body knows better sometimes than your cognizant brain does and will do things. And I think that these hematomas were caused by not knowing what I was dealing with within my family of origin, as well as my marriage. I don't blame anybody. Nobody chose to be born autistic. Nobody chose to become narcissistic. I do believe genetically predisposition is relevant in each one of these. I didn't choose to be raised by a narcissist and have my entire life turned upside down by somebody who's sick. So my goal in sharing all of this is, like I said in the beginning of my blog post, you would ask me a couple years ago if I'd be studying autism and narcissism. No. So we don't know what we're dealing with, and I feel like we're given a life where we can learn every day. And I'm wanting my children to understand themselves so they can be healthy people in any kind of relationship, whether it's work or friends, sports, you name it, romantic. I want them to understand why we're here and where we're at this point. And I want people in society to quit labeling in such a way that it makes it hard for people to feel like they can be their genuine selves. Why don't we understand each other? My children are brilliant. They're thoughtful. They're caring. You would never guess, partly because they mask in public, that there's something going on there, right? And the masking is draining. I see the other side of it. I see what it does to them when they don't know how to budget themselves and have executive function issues. I now know better how to help them. I do believe 1,000% that I was to be a good mom for them because I homeschooled, and I don't judge people who school, but because I was able to homeschool, I was able to curtail their curriculum to them. I'm a very attuned person. That's what I think. I'm naturally an empath, but I was also trained to be a supreme empath because of my narcissistic parent. And so because of that, I'm very in tune with the little quirks and things within a person so that I can stop and say, hey, let's redo this. So we're all learning. I'm thankful for this information, as painful as it is that I'm going through. And I want to help you. If you feel like you've been in this situation in any form, whether it's the autism, narcissism, or both, I'm here to help, not give information from like my, I don't have the scholarly knowledge, right? But I have experience, and then if you need that I can help get you there. I just really feel passionate about this, that God's going to use this. God's going to use this pain and learning and struggle in my life to help somebody else. He already is. I've already seen him helping people come to grips with their own selves, whether it's whatever's going on. I'm helping people. I've seen people getting out of relationships that they're should have been out of a long time ago, right? And getting questions and answers from people that just, it's flooring me that this is helping. I wish that it wasn't my lot 100 times over. But if I'm going to be here, I'm going to make the most of it, and I'm going to definitely share. I think I have a platform in order to do that, and I just want to be here. So I want to share more in the future, in particular, maybe let's say about the children and maybe how to navigate things differently. Making some hardcore decisions for myself in this last year or so since all this has come to culmination, and I see again God working, and I know he's going to do it in your life. Feel free to email me. It's larissa@prodigalpieces.com. Reach out and ask some questions, leave some comments in this blog post, and it helps generate that juice for other people to find it. And again, sign up for my newsletter. All right, next time. Bye.